Pleasure of introducing our first speaker. He leads regional efforts to increase educational opportunities and content for CFA Institute members and the finance community, and promote the CFA, CIPM, and Claritas programs. He is also responsible for developing and managing university relationships in Asia Pacific. He has been in the training work for more than 15 years, teaching across a wide range of subjects, including the CFA program and the Institute of Chartered Accountants in England and Wales credential, as well as designing and delivering bespoke courses for a variety of investment management and banking clients. He has taught in North America, Europe, the Middle East, and Asia. Prior to joining CFA Institute, he was Managing Director for Asia Pacific of Fitch 7 City Learning, where he oversaw the strategy, business development, operations, and course delivery for the region from Singapore. He is a graduate of the University of London. He is a member of the Chartered Institute for Securities and Investment, a fellow of ICA-EW, and a CFA charter holder. Ladies and gentlemen, to give our welcome remarks, the Head of Education of CFA Institute Asia Pacific, Mr. Neil Gaubier.
Well, hello Manila and hello Cebu out there. So thank you very much, John, for those kind welcome remarks. I hardly recognise myself. I suddenly thought that I must be getting a bit old if I've done all of that, but it's an absolute pleasure to be here today at the second Philippine Junior Finance and Investment Summit, and to be asked to give you the opening words and to just sort of introduce and set up the programme. As has already been said, there's a lot of interesting information coming your way, so please ensure that over the course of the day, you listen, you take your notes, you get involved in everything that's going on, so that when you leave, you have really taken something from the day and you've got something to think about, which you can also share, of course, with your other friends and colleagues. Now, I just want to say a few words, and then we'll get stuck into the nitty-gritty of the day. But when I look at the title, it talks about advancing career and financial wellness. And just for the next few minutes, I want to split this into two components. I want to think about the finance and your prospective career in finance, but I also want to finish just by throwing it back at you and saying how at the end of the day, you all need to take personal responsibility for your own finance as well. So if I think about the world of finance, and the next speaker is going to talk about the economic outlook for the Philippines, I just want to say how rosy it looks from my point of view. Before I came here today, I was looking at some of the statistics published by the Asian Development Bank, which of course, as we know, is based here in Manila. And GDP growth for this year was forecast, I believe, to be 6.3%. I think quarter three is going to bring it down a little bit. Outlook for next year, 6.2%. But if you look at the average GDP from 2001 to 2015, it is averaged 5.9%. Now, I cannot think of many other countries who can actually boast that sort of GDP growth. Most other countries would absolutely cut off their right arm to try and get that sort of economic growth. Now, we're all here because we're interested in finance, and of course, what's been happening in China can't have escaped our notice. One of the things that the Chinese economy is trying to do is shift away from an export-dominated economy to try and get greater consumer. Well, the growth in GDP that the Philippines enjoys, 60% of that growth is attributed to personal consumption. Also, I was reading in the same report, now I don't know whether this is good or bad news, that last year saw a 27% increase in the number of new vehicle registrations. Well, the good news is that must suggest that there's increasing wealth, increasing middle class. The bad news is why anybody wants to bring another car onto the road in Manila, I've honestly got no idea. But all of these things, increasing consumption, car registrations, points to one thing: the fact that there is an increasing amount of wealth, and wealth has to be managed. The GDP, you know, is growing. 7% of the GDP is reckoned to be coming from the finance community. That will only grow. So hopefully not stealing any of the comments that the next speaker will say, but the financial outlook, and therefore the opportunity for careers in this, in the world of finance, must be looking rosy. And I'm sure we all think that. That's why we're all here today. The GDP, coupled with lowish inflation, you've got economic stability, your sovereign outlook has been upgraded, you have financial reform. All the signs are very, very positive, and you can take your place and build on this. So I just want to come to the finance career. This event is today sponsored by the CFA Institute and the local society of CFA in the Philippines. Without their work and their commitment, this would not have been possible. But as you march forward and you want to take a place in the world of finance, you need the technical expertise in order to do that. Not only to get the job, but to actually build up the profession and bring more foreign investment into the country so that the growth continues. You also need to have a very strong ethical and be very, sort of enriched with integrity. As the economy grows and more people will have investable wealth, they will be looking for people to manage that. And those people are in the audience today. So you need to have the skills to be able to do it, to understand what managing other people's money is about. But you also need to do it from an ethical background and have the integrity to always do what is right for your client, not what you believe is right for you. And that's what the CFA Institute and the local society stands for. So later on today, friends and colleagues of mine will talk about the CFA programme, and we'll talk about the Claritas programme. If you think you are wanting a career in finance and you're going to embark upon that, I strongly recommend that you listen to those presentations. Now, for every one person who is likely to be in a role where they are making investment decisions, there's probably another 7 or 8 people supporting them, working in the background. It could be that you're actually in law, but you're working in the finance community. You could be in marketing, but you're working in the finance world. For those people who are more supporting or not actually making the investment decision, there is a program that the CFA has developed called Claritas, and it's on your program, and you'll hear about that this afternoon. So please ensure that you understand these opportunities for positioning you for a future role. The other aspect I just want to touch on, and then I'll sit down, is financial wellness. All the signs are, of course, of increasing wealth. You're increasing wealth. And yes, you want to take your place in the finance community and help drive this growth forward, but at the same time, I believe you've got to take personal responsibility for your own finances. The world of finance will only get more complicated as more products evolve. For most of you, I would have thought your contact with finance has been with the bank, maybe a deposit or borrowing. But as products evolve, as you have more disposable wealth after you put your car on the street, I believe you must take personal responsibility. And the level of financial misunderstanding or ignorance, generally speaking, is quite huge. I was looking at a research report the other day, and people were stopped in the street and asked questions. Just to give you a few of those. When asked, can you say what 10% of 100 is, 84% of people got that right. Next question. You want to split 2 million equally between 5 people. Sounds fairly simple, you've already done it. 54% of people could do that. But the staggering one is, when asked that you invest $100 or whatever, in the bank at 10% compound interest for 2 years, only 12% of those questioned had an idea as to how much they'd have in the bank at the end of 2 years. Now that goes to the heart of finance. And Einstein, who we've all heard about, once said that compound interest was the 8th wonder of the world. And it has been proven that if you invest over a 20-year period, something like 70% of your returns come from reinvestment and compounding. And so my message to you is, when you take personal responsibility, understand the basics. Compounding, Einstein also said, the person who understands compounding earns it, the person who doesn't pays it. And as you move, you have credit cards and mortgages, and you look at the interest rates, you should know how much those are costing you. And it's all about compounding. And the other question I would say would be personal responsibility. This also goes to professional investment management. This is not a short-term game. This is a long-term game, if it's a game at all. You invest for the long term. In April this year, the local index was stood at its all-time high. I believe it was 8127. And of course, we all get swept away with a bull bubble, if we can recognise it. I don't know if you checked out where the market closed yesterday. So from a height of 8127, it is now, I think, closed yesterday at 6912. If you're in it for the short term, you'll probably lose, because you believe that you can make an investment decision, whereas in fact it's down to luck. So investing is for the long term, compounding is on your side. That's the personal message. Plenty of other messages coming from your future in finance. Okay, I was asked for 10 minutes, I reckon that's about it. So I'm going to hand over now to the people with the really interesting stuff to say, and I hope you enjoy and take away an awful lot from the day. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you.